Welcome to Leadership Bebop. I'm your host, Randy Evans. This podcast is a creative space to explore the rapidly changing dynamics of leadership and teamwork in organizations. Through discourse and engaging dialogue, we're creating a new, real book on what it means to lead in a complex, fast-paced world. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Hi there, I'm your host, Randy Evans, attorney, strategist, mediator, and coach. I created Leadership Bebop to explore the intersections of business, communication, and leadership with the arts, creative pursuits, positive psychology, philosophy, and the science of mindset and communication. Our main focus is the profound impact of listening and shaping our relationships, our outlook, and ultimately our reality. Now, before we jump into the details about the podcast, I thought I'd take a minute, just share a little bit about my story and my background. I grew up in a small town in the Four Corners area of northwest New Mexico, on and near the Navajo Nation. I studied law and urban planning at the University at Buffalo. And before that, I attended the University of New Mexico, earning my undergrad degree in trumpet performance and philosophy. It's okay, you can laugh. Actually, the late comedian Norm Macdonald used to say that the perfect joke is where the punchline is the same as the setup. That's how I feel when I speak to groups and I talk about my undergraduate studies. Everyone laughs at the setup. It's like I picked the two least practical degrees and I got them both. And yet, in working with organizations and teams, I frequently draw on my background in music, philosophy, and planning, as well as my career in law and my longtime interest in neuroscience, psychology, the science of listening, dialogue, and meaning-making processes, and conflict communication. In high school and in my first years of college, I actually planned to pursue a career in music. My first major was music education. However, I began losing my hearing in high school due to a genetic condition. And as my hearing grew progressively worse, I slowly began to accept that a career in music wasn't really an option. Now, I want to pause there to note that there are an increasing number of people with a hearing loss who are successfully pursuing careers in music, and I'm inspired by their stories. But at the time, that didn't really seem like an option for me. Yet I continued to play trumpet through college and even in law school, and my enjoyment of music has remained strong even as my hearing continued to degrade. More recently, I've adjusted to hearing with a cochlear implant, and it's greatly improved my ability to hear and understand speech, and it's also transformed the way that I hear and relate to music. When listening to jazz, for example, I can once again hear the sound of the brushes lightly sweeping the cymbals, the higher registers of the trumpet, the nuances of a flute, and other high-frequency sounds. I actually enjoy just about every style of music, and I listen to music all the time, but jazz has really been my favorite genre since high school. I was actually introduced to jazz as a freshman in high school. My first jazz album was Chuck Mangione's Feels So Good. And for several years, my jazz listening was really limited to jazz funk and jazz rock fusion. The Yellow Jackets, Spyro Gyra, Chick Corea, Herbie Hancock, George Benson, Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and others. No, not Kenny G. Sorry if you're a fan, no offense intended. But it really wasn't until college that I began listening to a more classic jazz repertoire, including the great bebop artists from the 1940s and 50s. Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Clifford Brown, Dexter Gordon, and Sonny Rollins, and of course, the Queen of Jazz, the First Lady of Song, Ella Fitzgerald. Now, this podcast isn't really about bebop. It's not even about jazz, though we will discuss music or other creative arts as they relate to business and leadership. Because if you think about it, really, everything we do every day, every minute, is a creative process. The key question is, what are we creating in this moment and why? And in creating this podcast, I'd like to offer a brief glimpse into the name, why bebop and why Leadership Bebop. Bebop is a particular style of jazz characterized by fast tempos and complex chord progressions with rapid key changes and improvisation based on combinations of rhythmic and harmonic structures. This style of jazz requires close listening, both for the musicians and for audiences. It also requires a learning mindset and close collaboration as the musicians explore advanced harmonies, complex rhythms, altered chords, asymmetrical phrasing, and intricate melodies. Now, just as in bebop jazz, leadership in today's world requires quick thinking, improvisation, adaptability, a learning mindset, and close collaboration among team members. Leaders must be willing to play both lead and supporting roles and to work together to develop creative solutions, anticipating and responding to rapidly changing conditions. Now, imagine your team as a jazz combo. Close collaboration is essential for your success. As with bebop jazz, successful leadership and effective teamwork require deep listening, open awareness, shared commitments, liberating structures, and trust and respect among team members. Ultimately, the goal is to create something meaningful and valuable together. On Leadership Bebop, we'll address these themes and other dynamics of leadership in our world of rapid change. We'll deliver action-oriented commentary and engaging conversations with thought leaders, business executives, communication experts, mediators, musicians and artists, creators, researchers, and others. We'll explore key issues relating to communication, effective listening, shared leadership, collaborative frameworks, constructive conflict engagement, and other critical issues. Together, we'll discover new ways of thinking about leadership and organizations. We'll also examine how we interact with each other as humans and strategies to improve how we practice and perform together as teams in today's turbulent world. We'll also delve into the science of hearing and the psychology of listening and why it is so hard for us as humans to listen well, even though most everyone agrees this is such a critical skill for leadership and in all of our relationships. And finally, we'll explore the close connections between the performing arts and critical issues facing leaders in today's modern organizations. Problem solving, communication skills, adaptability, spatial awareness, thinking on your feet, performance anxiety, imposter syndrome, teamwork, collaboration, resilience, improvisation, and innovation. So check out the show notes for the list of upcoming topics, and I'd really like to hear from you. What topics would you find most helpful? Let me know in the comments, because we really do want to make this relevant to the issues that you are dealing with. Oh, and one final note. If you don't like jazz, no worries, no judgment here. It's definitely an acquired taste. But no matter your musical preferences, you're invited to join us as we explore the real-world issues facing leadership teams in this present moment of time.